conversation is going round. People talking about the colors come to town. Fresh as a summer breeze, she'll take you by surprise.
Good morning and welcome to another wonderful episode of Fresh Waves here at Whistle FM. We have a terrific show lined up today, but before we get started, we have to give a big shout out to Reese's Market and Bakery for providing the fantastic muffins that are in the studio this morning. I went in yesterday because yesterday has oatmeal cranberry, which is one of my favorites. So I went and snagged oatmeal cranberry. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Brent. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Jason Rumpel, our technical producer. Are you enjoying your oatmeal cranberry muffin?
I sure am, definitely. Always a good muffin from Reese's.
That's for sure. And Reese's is at 5758 Main Street, right beside Barthow Jewelers.
That's right. You got it.
There you go. All right. Joining us in the studio this morning, we have Alison, Todd, Jackson from Redefined Finds.
That's right.
Do you know I can talk to 15 people in downtown Stouffville and everybody has a different way of saying the name of your company? Honestly, it's so funny. And I noticed in one of the papers, it was actually spelt out Re-Define.
We just did that.
Yeah.
We just did a whole new branding so that people can spell it and say it properly.
Okay.
Because we get it all the time. I popped with that in my head one morning. I thought, this is so catchy. And then ever since, I've regretted it a little tiny bit because no one can spell it and even say it properly. So when we redid the logo, we did it so that it is the dictionary spelling. So that it's much easier to
So you can see the syllables.
Yes. Yes. Makes a big difference.
It does. But it's still, everybody knows you, and maybe someday you'll just be called Fines or something.
Who knows, maybe.
Who knows? But, okay, you have a really cute store on Main Street. And when I first went in there years and years ago, when it first opened, I saw beautiful little dressers and vanities. And my daughter was looking for a white vanity at the time. I think it kind of, a Barbie theme going on. And so I thought I'd stop in there and see what it was all about. And I was really surprised with all the nice things you have.
Thank you.
And I thought to myself at the time, I would really like to take that old dresser downstairs and paint it up. But I knew that you can't just paint it. There was all this process involved.
Right.
And it looked like it was too long and arduous. And I just said, nah, not going to bother. The dresser's still in the basement, by the way. So now I see that over the years, you have changed the store. You've done a big reno recently, and you've reopened. And I went in there yesterday.
Did you? Good.
Yesterday afternoon. And wow, is it ever nice?
Isn't it nice? It feels so nice to walk in there now. It just feels I've always wanted sort of a creative, inspirational space, but also kind of zen, like where I walk in and it feels comfortable and calming, but I can still allow colors to come in because obviously when we paint, we want to paint with color. But I think the background now is just very comfortable and it has to be an inspiring space for people to come into. When we first started, I was all about putting as much in there as we could.
I noticed.
Right? It was very full, very colorful, very vibrant, but also just over time got a little bit too crammed where you just couldn't even see, what we really had in there. You couldn't make your way through. And also things that we were doing in there that was just tight spaces. So now we've just taken a whole new look at what works. And that's why we shut down for that renovation and shut down for 6 weeks and just revamped, went with what works, what I wanted, what I want to walk into every single day, and what I think that our customers want. I hope so. I think that it's going to take a lot of time for our current loyal customers to maybe get used to the new layout and figure out, okay, you still have furniture, you still have home decor, but it's scaled back a little bit. And now you walk in and you see, as you saw yesterday, there's a huge lot of tables in the front. So that's the workshop space. So I think the old customers will have to get used to, okay, we still have this stuff, but it's a little scaled back. New customers will have to walk in and figure out what the whole place is about. Because you walk in, you're not quite sure.
Right.
But I think over time, that's going to, the whole new branding and the whole new way of doing things will sink in. And I think we'll get the word out. That's my job right now, is to sort of get the word out as to here's what we are now. We haven't lost what we were, but we've changed a little bit to suit everybody's needs in town, I think, for the most part, because most of our customers, we have a lot of customer base that are from other areas of the GTA, but I would say the bulk are local.
That's nice.
Yeah, I would say, you know, within a 20K radius probably, and they come back and back and back and back for our workshops. So we're always trying to bring in new stuff and just create a space where they want to come and socialize with people and do some things.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
The whole concept is terrific.
Thank you.
So we're going to start, we have to take our little quarter after break. But when we come back, let's start at the beginning of how this all started.
Great.
Because it's a great story.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We'll be right back. You're listening to Fresh Waves on Whistle FM. I'm your host, Bren Masson. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, did you see that post online about Julie? I totally wrote it. Wasn't it hilarious? Is all of that true? Who cares? She's done anyways.
Are you talking about that post about Julie?
Yeah, funny, right?
No, but that post about you was.
What post?
Oh, you didn't hear? You're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, and oh yeah, you smell too. The whole school saw it, no big deal.
That's so mean. Did they really write that about me?
No, but how does it feel?
Sometimes you can feel all alone when being bullied. That's when you can really use a friend. If you see someone you know being bullied online, let them know they're not alone. Stand up now, support a friend, save a life. For more information on cyberbullying, visit stopthemean.wordpress.com or call our hotline at 1-800-555-STOP.
Do you find that mainstream FM radio plays the same classic rock songs over and over, and rarely, with the exception of specialty programs, play backtracks or B-sides from your favorite albums? I hope you can join me, Chuck Roberts, on Friday nights at 9 p.m. for my one-hour show, Classic Backtracks. We'll explore the backtracks or B-sides from classic rock artists from the 60s through the 90s and play the songs that you don't usually hear on mainstream radio. And hopefully we'll play a hidden gem that brings back some fond musical memories. During my show, I also profile a Canadian rock artist in my Coast to Coast segment, and each week close the program profiling a classic rock artist's contribution to rock music from bands to solo efforts or collaborations. That's Classic Backtracks on Friday nights at 9 p.m.
And we are back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. Today we're talking to Alison Todd Jackson. Do you use both of your last names all the time?
I do not, actually. I use just Jackson, which is my married name.
Okay.
Todd Jackson is on Facebook, just so people can find me from my maiden name.
From your, older days.
Right, my older days.
So now that's my segue into, okay, so who are you? How did this all start? Did you grow up in Stouffville?
I did not, actually. So my background, I actually grew up in the country, about 3 hours east of here, in a little tiny town called Jasper. It's not even a town. It's a hamlet, I guess.
Oh, neat.
I grew up on a farm. So then I came to school at Ryerson in Toronto. And ever since that, I stayed. I actually went in for radio and television arts. So I graduated with a degree in radio and television, worked at a radio station, all about country. I was all about country then. It was a dream job because I, grew up in the country, grew up listening to country music. So those were my jobs. I worked at a radio station, did a cross-country radio live show, and then I worked at CMT, which is now CMT. At the time, it was NCN. Worked there, and then I had kids. So I worked from home for a while. I stopped working in the music industry, worked from home for a while, and then my youngest is now 11. So when he got into grade 1, I got divorced. So I figured, okay, and for those years when they were little, I stayed at home. But I've always wanted to work. I love working. I need to do something. So as soon as he was old enough to be in school full time, I figured I have to get a job. Radio was out of the question at that point because, as you probably know, once you're out of the music industry for a few years, and by then I'd been 7, you can't just slide back in. You know,
the technology changes so quickly, and the systems are all different.
Quickly. Everything, and all your contacts, unless you keep up with them, those are gone. And country music had changed. Everything had changed. When I was in school, we were splicing tape with a razor. And now it's all digital, but we were picking up the bits off the floor and taping them back in.
Yes.
That shows my age, but hey, whatever.
That's okay.
So I figured I have to get a job where I can still be home because they're only in school. So they're still home by 3:30.
Yeah.
And I've always liked to upcycle and recycle things. And I've always done it for my own purposes at home, personal use, whatever. So honestly, one day I called my mom and I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to refinish furniture and I'm going to sell it online. This was before it was really avid and all over the place. Now you see a lot of it, but this was just sort of right at the edge of everything becoming all about recycling and upcycling and not wasting. And also just at the very beginning of, I know people have painted furniture for years, but at the beginning of where it became popular again. Mm-hmm. So it was a good timing for that. And I remember my mom saying, I think that's really good timing because everyone's all about recycling right now. So I started doing that. I went to a big show, I forget where it was was an auction or whatever. I bought a whole bunch of pieces of pre-painted furniture to get me going so that I could start a booth in Queensville Antique Mall. Okay. So I had a bit of that, and then I started painting my own. And I sold in from home online and also at the Antique Mall in Queensville. Then I opened up a second booth in Pickering. So I had 2 booths going, and then I signed on with Fusion Mineral Paint, which is what I sell at the store now. And I thought, their big thing was, do workshops, teach people how to do this. And I thought, that is not something I'm interested in whatsoever.
And then your mother or grandmother comes back into your mind saying, never say never.
That's right. And it's true. Like, I just thought, I can't teach. I've never taught people anything in my life. My mom's a teacher. She's a principal. My sister's a teacher, but I was not the teacher. I was more of a loner kind of person for that. So I said, I'm not going to do that. Well, within a year of probably even less, I started teaching workshops out of my garage, literally my garage. I would clean it out, take everything out. I had a heater. Mm-hmm. I would decorate it for Christmas. It was the craziest thing. If I look back now, like people coming, I would close the garage door and there's like 6 people sitting in my garage and I'm teaching a workshop.
I wish I'd known you back then.
Oh my God.
All the stuff I have sitting in my garage because I've got 4 kids and everybody went off to university and there's fashion trends,
right?
But there's furniture fashion trends too.
Absolutely.
We went through this 30 years of people scraping off paint to get down to the original wood.
That's right.
Refinish the original wood, and now people hate the original wood.
Yeah,
and so my kids were like, "Mom, I'm not taking that dresser. That's hideous."
I know.
No, it's not. It's real maple. Mom, it's hideous. Face it, it's hideous.
But now they would probably. Sometimes I think if they see it finished, but I do find the younger generation now is getting a little bit more savvy. Like they are going, okay, I'm going to. First of all, it's money. It's so expensive to live, so it's cheaper to take your parents' old stuff and fix it up.
And it is a do-it-yourself kind of a world right now.
That's right. So they'll either do it themselves or buy it, and it's still way cheaper than buying brand new stuff.
Right.
But also, I think people are a little bit more sentimental, so if they can keep it, but as long as it works in their environment. It can't be like grandma's old dresser as grandma's old dresser.
No.
But they'll take grandma's old dresser.
If it's been fixed up.
In a new way. That's right. So I did the garage workshops and all of that kind of thing, and then I realized this is getting bigger than what I can do here. So I decided to look around at shops and places to set up my own shop. So I came to Stouffville. I live in Unionville, so it's 20 minutes away. Came up to Stouffville about 4 years ago and started looking around, and I'm like, this is a perfect town to set up a shop. And then right around Christmas time, it was only a couple months later, on Kijiji, the old Smitten, which is at 6258, was up they were trying to rent it out or just get rid of it or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I jumped on it. We came up, met with the current owner, and my partner, David, and I just said, you know what, let's do it. So I was so naive back then because I thought, okay, here's what the rent is. This is what I'm currently making. I can cover the rent. So we just jumped in and did it, and things have just spiraled from then. So I ended up closing down the antique mall booths because I couldn't manage all of it. And now we just work out of the shop. I have a secondary spot in Markham where I just sell the paint line, but Stouffville is my
So the antique booths, are they open all the time or just weekends? They're kind of
They're open 7 days a week, but
Really?
Queensville just closed at the end of December, closed for good. Pickering is still open, I think every day. But yeah, but I wasn't there. I didn't have to be there. I just had to have them full. So keeping them full and a store full was just too much. Mm-hmm. So now it's really the store, and then we keep our furniture paint line in a place called Lucky 20 in a cafe in Markham, just so that I can service my Markham clients as well. And a lot of them come up here as well, because our store really services a whole big area around in York region, because they come for the workshops and they come to learn how to paint and they come to buy some furniture or whatever. But we've really just tried to create an atmosphere where people just want to keep coming back. And I think it works. And I still have a son in grade 6 and the other 2 in high school, so of course, when they're in high school, they don't need you so much anymore.
They don't want you around.
They don't want you around
drop
as
them
much.
off at school and you say, I'm going to come in and talk. No, you're not, Mom. You're not coming in.
The only thing they want you for is if you have to drive them somewhere,
Yeah.
or money. But my grade 6, he still needs me. So I have made it, ever since I started the store 4 years ago, I made it so that I'm home because I'm divorced, as I said. So when I have my kids, I'm home when they're home from school. So I'm still a mom to them. I'm still a stay-at-home mom to them. They think of me as that, because when they walk in the door, I'm still there. But they know I have a business and I run that business, but I run it primarily. I really go gung-ho when they're not there. When they're home, they're my, primary purpose in
Focus.
life.
Yeah.
Focus, yeah.
Yeah. And that's admirable. I think that's great. More people need to do that.
Well, it works for me. It makes me sane. And it also, I have great staff at the store that take care of it when I'm not there. So I'm not worried about that. I don't have to worry. And I can leave at 2. So like today I have my kids, I leave at 2 so that I have 3 kids in 3 different schools. So I pick them all up on the way home and then they're all happy.
That's
Hopefully
good.
still have a decent dinner on the table.
Gotta love a crock pot.
Yeah. No,
Actually, I'm going to get an Instapot. We have to have a whole show about crock pots.
I've
and
heard about
Instapots.
that. I haven't tried it.
I have a friend who has an Instapot, and this is totally off topic, by the way. But for anyone out there who is thinking of, doing what you're doing and having a career and having kids, the stuff that you can make, a full stew that tastes like it's been made for the whole day in 1 hour.
That's great.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. These Instapots are fantastic. Anyway, we will have a show just
There you
about
go.
Instapots one day.
No kidding.
So when you first decided that you were going to get this space, you came in, you saw it, and you figured, okay, I can cover the rent, so everything's good.
Yes.
And then what happened?
So the way that he had the store set up, it was refinished furniture as well. So we bought all the contents. So I thought, well, I can just walk in and just take right over. But as we did that, I realized, okay, I need it to be my own. I need it to be my own stuff. I need to turn it into what, I have created.
So
And
it was a
finished furniture and home decor store. So he had painted furniture, dressers, all that kind of thing. He didn't run workshops and didn't have a paint line, but he had tons of home decor signs, that kind of thing.
That kind of the signs, right?
Lots
I remember
of
when
signs,
that, okay.
lots and lots of signs. So we went in there and I decided after I'm just going to have a huge sale and sell everything off. So we sold everything off at like 70% off and emptied the store, closed down, did a little bit of fixing up for a couple of weeks, not to the extent that we did here now, but a couple of weeks, and then opened it as my own with a workshop space in the back, our paint line, and then our refinished furniture. So the big education there was just because you made enough to make rent at the antique malls does not mean you make enough to run a store because you have staff to pay, you've got products you have to buy, you've got utilities you've got to pay,
Taxes, all kinds of fun
taxes,
things.
property taxes, everything. It's not just rent. And I, naive as I was, I knew that, but until you've done it, until you've thrown yourself into it. And I have friends who've opened stores since, and I try to warn them, but I'm like, you know what? You can't really, not warn them not to do it, but just give them a little of my own advice.
Background of what is actually involved. That's a nice thing to have when you're doing something for the first time.
It is, but until you do it, it's just like having a baby. Until you do it, you really don't know. People can tell you everything about it, but you really don't know anything, and it doesn't sink in until it's your own. So it was a huge undertaking, but we did really well in the first year, and it was a lot of learning, a huge learning curve. But we still did well. I mean, we survived. We're still here. And we made changes to see what works and what doesn't work. Because, there's times where like holiday is crazy busy. And then there's other times of the year that can be quite slow. Like February is not a great month for people to get out and walk. And the weather is very, your store is very dependent on the weather. I remember the first day I sat in the store, and I think my revenue that day was minus 25 because someone did a return. And I was dying.
Minus 25.
I was like, what happened?
It probably matched the temperature outside. That's what happened.
Gosh, it was brutal. I'm like, I hope this doesn't happen very often. But it happens, right? In retail, it happens when you're a small business. Yeah. And I remember, so we have this whole group of Fusion merchants who are the paint line people. And I remember going home that day and going, I feel horrible. Like I had my worst day ever. Minus $25 because someone came in and returned a pint of paint or whatever. And they're all like, everyone got on. They're like, oh, thank you for being so honest because it's happened to me. But no one wants to say it happens to them.
No, of course not.
Because you only ever want to say all the good things, right? Especially with social media. You only ever want to get on there and post all the good stuff and how well you're doing it. Well, there's bad days too. And when you're first starting out, there can be a lot of bad days because you don't know how to forecast. You don't know what's going on. You don't know how much to buy. And then someone can walk in and return a $300 dresser and you're stumped. So it's like, anyway, so there was a lot of learning, and there'll still be a lot of learning because now we've changed. And so I think, it got to about the 3-year itch. And I'm like, okay, we got to change some things. You have to be able to evolve. You really do.
I think you're really right because so many businesses you see that you think, wow, this place is kind of stuck in 1972.
And you wonder how, right?
And it probably worked really well in 1972. It just needs to... But there's, what do they call it? Founder syndrome, when they founded something and they can't let go of that something.
Right.
And I think that's part of success is being able to morph that something into something brand new.
That's right. And,
fresh.
And make it work for you, right? And see what people want.
Exactly.
And also with the times, like social media changes everything.
It certainly does. And we're going to discuss that more when we get back. We have to take a little break now. Jason, take it away. You're listening to Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. And this morning we're talking with Alison Jackson of Redefined Finds.